Hey everyone!
What's good, y'all? Kalen here, aka Enoch the Prophet. Different kind of video. I'm doing another kind of review-esque type video. Just sharing my thoughts on Spider-Man Homecoming. And you see I got the shirt. Yeah, man, we were ready today. Showed up like 2 hours early, and nobody was there, so we left. And then came back a little later. I literally just got back, so this is going to be my fresh thoughts. Haven't watched any reviews or heard anything like other than just the headlines on newspaper articles and stuff. So basically this is just fresh, all the things I picked up from the movie and how I felt about it. Not necessarily a review, because for me I feel like a review has the connotation of like I'm above this movie and I'm just like looking down on it and just taking it apart and trying to like size it up as what it kind of is and isn't. And that's not my thing at all. I'm just trying to share how I felt about the movie and how I enjoyed it, how there were certain things I wanted that were a little different than how I wanted them, or things that I wanted that weren't included, you know, all that good stuff. So I'm just going to kind of give a little backdrop and then I'll get into my thoughts and my actual like commentary on the movie. So for those that don't know, man, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I went out and purchased this. It's the very first issue of Spider-Man, a reissue. It's not the actual first copy, like a copy from the 60s, but it's a refurbished, reissued version, as well as the Ultimate, the first one, which was a really good one. I've got the I collect the essential Spider-Mans, so I've got like 3 of these. I want to get more. I think I'm gonna stop at 6 though, because whenever at the point that Stan kind of passed the baton on to Gary Conway, I think things kind of got a little mixed up, and I'm not too big a fan of what came out of the switch and the transition. So while I do like what Gary did pertaining to like the Goblin and Gwen Stacy and that whole character arc, stuff after that kind of didn't really work as well for me, and I miss Stan Lee's voice and his handling of the characters. So I think I'll stop at 6, but I want to get 1 through 6, and right now I have 3 through 5. So yeah, I collected all the games. I have, well, not all of them, but yeah, I got the OG Spider-Man on Nintendo 64. I got the OG Spider-Man on GameCube, the OG Spider-Man 2. I don't have 3 because it's not on GameCube, but I bought 3 on the DS. I owned Spider-Man 2 and 3 on Game Boy. I own Spider-Man Friend or Foe. I got, what else? Web of Shadows. I never got Shattered Dimensions, but I heard that was really good. I had Ultimate Spider-Man. I still do, but the disc got scratched, so it's not as good. I used to make video games, like little games on this program called Game Maker, and I would make Spider-Man games. I would write Spider-Man stories. Man, I'm an avid fan, dude. I own all the movies, pretty much. I own all the Raimi movies, besides 3. And I'm looking to get all of the movies, like the Raimis and the Webb movies, because I just want to have that completion type of thing. And so all that goes to say, I went really far and went too far and too long, but just to give the credibility that I am a die-hard Spider-Man fan. It's been such a big part of my childhood and who I am as a person. I love Batman. Batman's one of my favorite heroes, but like sizing him up to Spider-Man, Spider-Man's there, dude. And I think here's the reason why. Growing up, dude, I just identified with Peter Parker so much and the character of Spider-Man, and I found myself, when I watched the first Raimi film, I was like, dude, I really want to be that. I want to have the ability to just like, people bullied me in elementary school, and there were times I was like, man, I wish I could just like power these dudes down and just show them who I am and what I have to offer and how much of a man that I am. I never got that opportunity or that time, so it goes deeper than just, oh, he's got cool abilities, his comics are really entertaining, his shows are cool. It's like, nah, man, it goes further than that for me. It's the character that I fell in love with, and the fact that he does lead this double life where he's, you know, a hero, but then he's also a teenager in high school, and it's like that whole dichotomy and how to navigate that has always been something that interested me as a person. And so when I heard about Spider-Man Homecoming, well, let's back up. When I heard that Spider-Man was coming into the MCU, I was like, alright, finally, like, y'all are making some good decisions. Because when I heard that Sinister Six was coming out and they were working on that, I was like, I don't really know if I really am ready for that. What I saw in Amazing 2 doesn't really convince me that they can pull this off very well. So I wasn't excited for it, but I was like, well, it's more Spider-Man stuff, whatever. We'll check it out. It'll be entertaining, I guess. Then the announcement came that they weren't doing that, and that they were scrapping the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man altogether, and I was like, wow, I wonder what that's about. And then the news of the deal came around, and it was like, oh wow, so Spider-Man's gonna be in the MCU. And then it was like, oh, well, who's gonna play Spider-Man? What's it gonna be? Are they gonna cast a regular, like another Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire-esque person, of like a whole, like older person, playing a high school student? Or are they gonna, like, and what part of Spider-Man's life are they gonna capture? Because people always associate Spider-Man with the high school age period, but there are plenty of comics of him being an adult, in college, out of college. In fact, most of the comics are after that high school period. His high school career only takes like 30 issues of The Amazing Spider-Man. So I don't know where people get that. I think it's the movies. All the movies kind of start in that same high school era, so maybe people just associate that with him. But those were all the questions that were going through my mind when I heard about the news, and then, it came through that they were, oh, we're going to do a high school Spider-Man. I was like, cool. And from that point on, I don't want to get too much into every little detail that came out, but from that moment on, I was just like, every piece of news that came out was just like music to my ears. I saw, Tom Holland casted. I was like, cool. I've never seen a movie with him in it, but he seems like a candidate. He's cool. I guess we'll see how he does. And then we got interviews, and he was talking, and I was like, okay, I can see Peter already just from the interviews and his personality just as a person. So I was pumped. And then, like I said, more and more news. When Civil War dropped, seeing him for the first time, I loved the way that they set him up and set up his and Tony's relationship. I thought it was excellently handled. The writing was spot on. And when it ended and was like, yeah, Spider-Man will return, and they had the Spidey symbol on the ceiling, I was just like, yes, let's go. So that was a year ago, and I have that review up. I used to. I'll put it back up with this as well. But basically, man, I was just pumped. And so, like I said, every bit of news, I was like, cool. The only thing I was apprehensive about was like the team behind it. I didn't know John Watts' like material beforehand. I'd heard about Cop Car, but I hadn't seen it. And the writers, John Francis Daly, and I forget the other guy's name, they did some comedies, some lackluster comedies that I was like, okay, I haven't seen those, but the reviews are kind of like, eh. But then knowing that it was under Marvel's creative control kind of reaffirmed me, and seeing Kevin Feige as the producer, I was like, okay, well, they got the right people behind it, so as long as there's some sense of direction and kind of like an oversight, I think it could be pretty good. And Marvel knows what they're doing, dude. They handle these characters so well. They care about the fans. They care about the properties. So I was pretty optimistic. And so going into it, I was actually really, really pumped, dude. Like every trailer I watched, all the promos and stuff. Now, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I've seen enough. Like, I don't want to see any more because, there's a certain point with movies that if you watch too much stuff leading up to it, you kind of ruin it for yourself. So I didn't want to do that. So there came a point, I think right around like the last trailer, that anything else after that, I was just like, alright, nope, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to see it, I'm good. And so, showed up today at the theater, got our tickets early. We showed up, it was the first showing at 7, and got there and sat down. I was playing my DS, and we just waited, and Christian, my brother Christian had a friend of his come, and we watched it all together. And it was cool, so I want to just go right into my thoughts, dude, now that I've spent all this time wasting you guys' time. So, yeah, how did I feel about it? Man, I really, really liked it, dude. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't know what else to put that. I really, really enjoyed it. I genuinely, I love this Spider-Man, dude. I love the fact that he's a high school student. I love the fact that it feels very, current and contemporary. Like, the story, the characters, the world around it feels very real. I love the way that they were able to pull Spidey into the MCU and, everything. You watch this movie and you see elements of the MCU that you didn't really realize were there. We've been seeing everything. I like the way they've been describing it in interviews recently. We've seen, the grand scheme of things, with the Avengers and all the things that have gone down in the previous Avengers movies, Civil War, the individual movies of the MCU characters. But this is, an opportunity to kind of get on the ground level and see, yeah, what's it like for the people that are cleaning up after all this stuff that goes down in New York? What's it like for, normal people, everyday life? How are they dealing with these events post them happening? How is this affecting the culture of America with all these you know, where they live in a world where there's a god from another universe coming down to save the day. Like, how does that change the culture? How does that change the way that schools work or the way that the public views heroes? Like, all these kind of things that, like, honestly, I didn't really think about, you know? And I really appreciate the fact that the writers took that opportunity to kind of just focus in on something that not many people would acknowledge or realize was that, like, a thing, you know? There were portions where they were referencing events that took place in previous movies, and it's like, yeah, if this really did happen in our world, I'm sure there would be, like, history classes where we spend a unit of the class talking about this specific conflict. So it's cool, man. It brings the universe, it makes it more realistic, I think, is basically what I'm getting to. How do I feel about Tom Holland? I liked him, dude. I love Tom Holland, dude, as Spider-Man, as Peter Parker. He's a terrific actor, man. He captures Peter Parker's mannerisms and his personality so well. It's really awesome. But he also captures that, you know, that naive, young Spider-Man that we haven't really seen on screen yet, you know? And that's really cool to kind of see him struggling to figure out how to use his powers and struggling to figure out, all right, man, like how do I do this? How do I navigate the difficulty of being a hero here and also living as a student and trying to, like, keep the high school life going? And it's cool. It's kind of like Spider-Man 2, man, like, in the sense that, like, Spider-Man 2 focused so much on the conflict of Peter Parker's double life and how, you know, one life is suffering when the other one is, like, going well. Like, when he's doing his good thing as Spider-Man, like, being a really good hero and, like, helping the city, his social and personal life is struggling. But when he's working on his personal life and, like, his powers aren't really there, his life is, like, you know, is doing really well, but Spider-Man's not doing anything. It's like that hard, you know, balancing act of trying to keep everything together while living this double life. So I loved how they captured that in this movie. It reminded me of Spectacular Spider-Man a lot, dude. Like, Peter's trying to fight a battle and somebody's calling, and, like, Aunt May's calling to ask where he is, if he's going to make it in for dinner. Like, that kind of stuff it's what excites me. It's what the kind of stuff that I don't think we've seen it captured this well, and feeling this really grounded and realistic as it was in this movie. So that was cool to see. Man, the rest of the cast, Ned was pretty cool, man. I like, he was like the comic relief. He was all of his, like, I'll say this about the writing. There are a lot of jokes, and, like, a lot of it is Ned sometimes, like, just kind of, like, you know, his mind is blown when he finds out that Peter's Spider-Man, so he's just, like, asking questions, and, like, oh my gosh, dude, yo, I could be, like, your sidekick. And there's all these little things like that, and not all the jokes land, but it doesn't matter to me, dude. It was fun. He felt like a genuinely cool character, and it was just cool seeing their chemistry on screen. I mean, he's basically he's basically this universe's version of Genki from the Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man. Even the way he looks, like, he's Asian, he's heavy set. He's basically Genki, just they changed his name. I don't know why that was. Ned Leeds in the comics has nothing to do with being Spider-Man's best friend, but it is what it is, and I think he did a great job. The girl that plays Liz, she did great. There aren't any, like, bad performances in the movie as far as I'm concerned. I'm trying to think of any more things I liked. I liked the villains. I thought that they were handled very well, making some very sympathetic villains that you identify with, and you're like, man, you know, your plan isn't stupid. Like, there are a lot of movies where, like, the villain's plan makes sense to them, but when you think about what they're trying to accomplish, it's like, that doesn't really work, dude. Like, that, I don't understand how that's going to make anything good, how that's going to help you or help, I don't know, just, there are a lot of movies like that where you can just kind of focus in on the villain's plot and just take away the hero and just think, like, alright, this dude's trying to do this. Why is he trying to do this? But in this movie, you really do side with the Vulture, in a sense. He's basically a Robin Hood, dude. He's like a steal from the rich and giving it to the poor type of person, and as he's explaining this to Peter and just kind of, you know, relaying his situation, it makes sense, and you identify, and you kind of like, yeah, I'm supposed to not like you, but I do get where you're coming from, and I think I really empathize with his perspective and his reason and his motive behind what he's doing, which was cool, and I think that's a really good thing. Another thing, and this is something that, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Sam's Reviews, but Sam is this British guy who does, like, reviews on a lot of the Spider-Man movies and other movies too, but I love the Spider-Man reviews. And one of the things he talked about in one of his kind of thoughts on something. I forget which movie it was. He was like, a lot of Spider-Man villains have these, like, their plan is to destroy Spider-Man, but there's no real reason why that makes any kind of sense. Like, Sandman has no reason to go for Spider-Man, because, I mean, he's trying to get money for his daughter. What does that have to do with, like, destroying, like, that part when he was just roaming through the streets and Venom shows up and he says, okay, we'll go kill a spider, I'm just like, dude, have you lost your sense of purpose in life? Like, why, how is that helping your daughter going out and fighting Spider-Man? Another example, Electro. I mean, his whole character's stupid, but how is stopping Spider-Man, like, why do you need to do that? Like, why is he such a villain to you? He didn't do anything to make you got yourself into that situation, like, being the electric dude you are. Why are you after him? So, yeah, all that's to say, I really appreciated the fact that, like, the Vulture's plan made sense. And when it came time for him to, you know, he had the choice of killing Spider-Man or, like, pursuing what he wanted to do from the get-go, he chose what he wanted to do from the get-go. And I was like, yo, that's sick, man. Go ahead. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that makes sense. Anybody else would be like, yeah, forget Spider-Man. I'm just trying to do my thing. I'm trying to get done what I need to get done. Yeah, if he gets in the way, I'll take him out. But, like, if he's out of the way, then I don't need to worry about him. I'm not going to try to kill him because there's no reason for that. So, yeah, I thought that was handled very well. A lot of people had an issue with Flash being, like, this not really a stud sports jockey. I didn't care. I think he served the purpose that, I mean, it's a different Spider-Man. Ned Leeds is, like, you know, Spidey's best friend. Betty Brant is, like, this student at the school. If you got a problem with Flash being, you know, kind of like an academic rival, I don't know what to tell you, because, like, there's so many other character changes that it's like, I don't know how you can be mad about that and not recognize this. So, it didn't bother me. I just came in to have a good time, dude, and I think I did. Yeah, I didn't talk about Mr. Tomei or Robert Downey Jr. They were great, man. They did good. Like I said, there weren't any bad performances. Some of the writing, like I said, could be better, but I had a good time, and I think there's a point halfway through the movie that really, like, it picked up for me, and I was like, because here's one thing I was concerned with. There's this point in the movie where you're like, at least where I was like, man, like, this is really fun, I'm loving this, but I really hope that at some point I start feeling like some kind of an emotional, I don't feel emotionally touched by this movie yet. Because there's just like this, it's cool, and it's like, yo, I'm loving what I'm seeing, Spider-Man's awesome, everything's cool, going really cool, the Vulture's working, this whole, you know, conflict is building up, I really like where it's going, but I don't feel emotionally attached to anybody. Like, I like Spider-Man, but I don't care about him necessarily. And then there's this point halfway through the movie where it's like, okay, like, Spidey has this kind of, like, a moment to kind of back up and look at his life and be like, alright, man, what am I going to do differently? And it's at that point that I'm like, okay, cool, I'll take it, like, this works for me. That was one of my biggest concerns, like, that I was going to come away from the movie not really feeling anything emotional. Like, and I don't need this tearjerker moment or anything, but I just wanted to feel something, you know? One of the greatest things about the Raimi movies is that you feel something. Like, they're very emotionally driven. Especially, like, number 2, with Peter just, you know, trying to, like I said, navigate the difficulty of living this double life and watching different parts of his life kind of crumbling. So, yeah, man, but back to Homecoming, dude, when that moment hit, I was like, yes, this is what I want to see. So nice, I can, you know, mark that off the list and just be like, cool, alright, I'm in, you know. And by the time the final conclusion came, I was like, cool, I'm sold, I'm good, we can go here. Because there was a point I was like, man, I don't know if it's going to get there, I don't know if we're going to get to that point, I don't know if I'm going to really feel something as much as I did with the Raimi movies. And I don't think I did, but it's only movie 1, and I was like, when I came into the theater today, I was like, dude, I just want to have a good time, I want to enjoy this movie, and I want to see Spidey doing his thing, and, like, see Peter Parker in a high school environment, living a high school life, and I saw that, and I loved it, I really did. I think the high school portions of this movie were some of my favorites, and I really wish there would have been more, you know. I feel like there were, like, the scenes in the high school were, like, the coolest parts for me at times, like, seeing Peter in class, wanting to get out, and you know, I felt kind of the opposite of Peter, because there's a lot of scenes in the movie where Peter's just like waiting on the clock. He's like, dude, I just want to go and do my Spider-Man thing. I don't want to be in this classroom all day with these students and people, and I get it. For me in the movie, I was like, nah, dude, stay in school. Like, those are the scenes I wanted to see, and I wanted to see him and, him and Liz, their relationship kind of go somewhere, and ultimately, it doesn't really go anywhere, but I'll give them a pass on that, because they basically illustrate through the movie that the conflict in the movie is the reason why that wouldn't have worked for them. So, yeah, I was like, okay, well, whatever, like, that works. And in the comics, him and Liz weren't even really a thing. He liked her, and she kind of liked him, but they didn't ever date, so it makes sense. So, yeah, I thought that was cool. There were a lot of, like, minor characters, or just, like, minor reveals throughout the movie of characters from the comics that, like, you're like, oh, so that's who that is. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I heard that name, I know. And then there are other ones that you're like, I think that might be who I think it is, but I'm not totally sure. We'll have to see with all those. Some of them are like, yeah, this is that person. And then others are like, it's up to you. Like, we give a little bit of breadcrumbs here and there, but we're not going to say anything yet. So, yeah, man. Ultimately, dude, I really love this movie. I'm trying to think of, like, any other downsides or positives I could give it. Man, I'll talk about Happy Hogan. He doesn't really do anything that he hasn't done already. There's some scenes in the end that kind of like, I was like, okay, cool. Because the majority of the movie, he's just like, hey, Peter, what are you doing? I thought I told you not to do that. Alright, well, stay out of the way, man. Don't do anything crazy. Stay in school. Don't call me unless you really need me. Goodbye. And there's just like this stern, like, I don't really care who you are, what you're doing, just don't mess my day up, don't get in my way, or like mess up my plans kind of thing. That changes in the second half, I think, but I was like, alright, man, Happy Hogan's not really that happy, but whatever. Anything else? Yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. Recommend it to any Spider-Man fans out there. I'm not going to say yet if it's better than the Raimi movies or better than Amazing. I don't know, it's its own thing, dude. I don't really want to compare, even though comparisons are going to come and people are going to start, like, sizing it up with their other one. For me, it's like the Raimis are their thing, and the Amazings are their thing, and this is its thing, so I don't want to start trying to, draw the line between them or whatever. The way I see it, dude, people are always going to have their favorites and their non-favorites. Some people hate the Raimis, some people hate the Amazings, vice versa. Some people love the Raimis and love the Amazings. For me, I'm just like, I just want to have a good time. I want to see Spider-Man in the movie screen. I want to see characters handled very well, and I want to see, like, comic book characters accurately depicted. I feel like that's what I got, and it's not a perfect movie. Like I said, some of the writing can be a little bit better, but ultimately came out of the movie excited. Can't wait for the next one. Can't wait to see Spidey in Infinity War. Yeah, my rating scale, I'd say for me, I had a great time. I think this was a really good movie. So a high good. Not great, but a high good movie. Really good movie, man. I really enjoyed it. The only things that kind of kept me from going great is, like I said, it could have, emotionally, I wasn't really pulled as much as I wanted to be. And I feel like I wanted some more between Aunt May and Peter. Just some dialogue between them. She's not in the movie a whole lot. And I was a little disappointed because I like Marissa Tomei, and I think she plays Aunt May really well. And I just wanted to see that chemistry between her and Tom a little bit more explored. Similar to, like, Rosemary Harris and Tobey Maguire. But yeah, yeah, that's my only real gripe. I really enjoyed it, dude. I can't wait for the next one. Hope you guys see it too. Hope you guys enjoyed as well. Let me know what you think. If you see this video and want to comment, let me know. And I'll hopefully be doing more of these. So yeah, peace.